A Muslim man in Russia attacked a nun carrying the Virgin Mary's icon and raised his boot to destroy it in front of a crowd of witnesses. What happened in the next 2 seconds made doctors say his survival was medically impossible. Sister Maria Kozlov walked the same path through Kazan every Tuesday and Friday for 23 years. She left the convent of the Holy Protection at 8:15 in the morning, carrying the icon of Our Lady of Kazan in a simple wooden case. The icon showed the Virgin Mary holding baby Jesus painted on wood and covered in gold and silver. Sister Maria was 61 years old and visited sick people who could not come to church anymore. February 14, 2023 was so cold that ice covered everything. The temperature was -18 degrees. Sister Maria walked carefully on the frozen sidewalk, wearing her black habit under a heavy wool coat. Her breath made clouds in the freezing air. She had just visited Elena Petrova, a 79-year-old widow, and was walking through Tukey Square when she heard the voice. Tukey Square was busy that morning. People hurried to work wrapped in thick coats. Buses drove past with frost on their windows. Street sellers sold hot tea from big metal containers that made steam in the cold air. That's when Rashid Mukhamedov saw her. Rashid was 34 years old. He grew up in Kazan with a Tatar father and Russian mother. For most of his life, he liked football and friends more than faith. But 18 months ago, something changed. He started going to a mosque where the teacher spoke with anger about Christians and the West. His mother, Svetlana, told family members that Rashid became someone she didn't know anymore. He stopped visiting her. He stopped laughing. His eyes became cold. That morning, Rashid saw Sister Maria cross the square. He saw the wooden case she carried. He saw the small silver cross hanging from the handle. Something inside him caught fire. He pushed through the crowd fast. Sister Maria didn't see him coming. She was thinking about her next visit to Dmitry Volkov, who was getting better from surgery. "You!" Rashid's voice cut through the cold air like a knife. "Stop!" Sister Maria turned around. She saw a young man, with rage on his face, coming straight at her. "That thing you carry is wrong!" Rashid shouted in Russian, so loud his voice bounced off the buildings. "You insult God with your pictures!" People stopped walking. Everyone stopped talking. All eyes turned to watch. Sister Maria stood very still. She had seen angry people before, but this felt different. This felt dangerous. "I mean no harm to anyone," she said quietly, even though fear was rising in her chest. "I am only taking this icon to visit sick people." Icon? Rashid spit out the word like it tasted bad. "You worship pictures. You make God into paintings. This is forbidden. This is the worst sin." He jumped forward and grabbed the wooden case from Sister Maria's hands. She tried to hold on, but he was too strong. The case fell to the frozen ground with a loud crack that made people gasp. "Please," Sister Maria said, dropping to her knees to reach for it. "Please, this is special to us." But what happened next would change everything. What stopped Rashid's boot from smashing that sacred icon? Rashid kicked the case away from Sister Maria. It slid across the ice. He walked to it, bent down, and opened it. The icon of Our Lady of Kazan lay inside with its golden surface shining in the weak winter sun. Everyone would remember what happened next differently. Some people said it took 5 seconds. Others said it was less than 2. But everyone agreed on what they saw. Rashid pulled the icon out of the case. He held it high above his head, showing it to the crowd. "This is what they worship," he shouted. "Wood and paint, not God. This is wrong faith." Then he threw it down onto the frozen ground as hard as he could. The icon hit the ground face first. The sound echoed across the square like a gunshot. Sister Maria cried out in pain. She crawled forward on her knees, reaching for the icon. But Rashid wasn't done. He lifted his foot ready to stomp on the holy image and destroy it completely. His boot was coming down. Sister Maria closed her eyes, unable to watch. Then everything changed. Rashid's boot never hit the ground. His leg gave out, not slowly like a cramp or a slip. It collapsed like all the bones turned to water. He fell hard, twisting as he went down. His head hit the frozen ground with a sick thud that made women scream. He didn't move. His eyes were open, staring at the gray sky, but he wasn't blinking. Blood started to spread across the ice from where his head hit. Sister Maria was still on her knees. She opened her eyes when she heard the fall and the screams. She saw Rashid lying there, not moving. Her first thought, after 23 years of faith and service, was to help him. She crawled toward him across the ice, forgetting the icon. "Someone call help!" She shouted loud enough to break through the shocked silence. People were already pulling out phones. A middle-aged man in a gray coat stepped forward. His name was Viktor Sokolov, and he was a doctor, on his way to work at the hospital nearby. "Don't move him," Dr. Sokolov said, kneeling by Rashid. He checked for a pulse and put his ear near Rashid's mouth to check breathing. He's alive, but barely. His pulse is very weak. Sister Maria took off her heavy coat, even in the freezing cold, and put it over Rashid's body. Her hands shook, not from cold but from shock. "Sister," someone said behind her. She turned. A young woman, maybe 25 years old, was holding the icon. She picked it up from the ice. "Is it broken?" Sister Maria took it gently. Her hands moved over it, checking carefully. The icon fell face first on hard ice, from 6 feet high. It should have been cracked, scratched, destroyed. Icon paintings are delicate. The wood is even more delicate, but there wasn't one scratch on it. Would Rashid survive? And if he did, what would he say happened in those final seconds before he fell? The ambulance came 7 minutes later. The medics moved fast, putting a neck brace on Rashid and lifting him onto a stretcher. Dr. Sokolov went with them in the ambulance, explaining what he saw. Sister Maria stood in the cold, watching them drive away. She was still shaking. A police officer named Sergeant Andrei Ivanov walked up to her. His face was kind, but serious. "Sister, I need you to come to the station and give a statement about what happened." "Of course," Sister Maria said. "But first I need to take the icon back to the convent. It's not safe here." The crowd was still there watching everything. Some people were taking pictures with their phones. Others were talking in groups, pointing at the spot where Rashid fell. Sister Maria heard people saying it was a miracle. Others said it was just bad luck. A few said Rashid got what he deserved. But Sister Maria felt no satisfaction, only sadness. She picked up the wooden case from the ice and carefully placed the icon inside. Then she walked back toward the convent, with her coat still on Rashid and the cold cutting through her habit. At the police station, Sister Maria told everything that happened. Sergeant Ivanov wrote it all down. When she finished, he looked up from his notes. "Sister, the man who attacked you is in critical condition at Kazan Medical Center. The doctors say he has severe head trauma. They don't know if he'll wake up. If he does, there will be criminal charges, assault, destruction of religious property, hate crimes. He could go to prison for years." Sister Maria nodded slowly. "I understand. But I want you to know something, Sergeant. When I saw him fall, my first thought was to help him. Not because I'm a saint, but because that's what my faith teaches, to love enemies, to pray for those who hurt us." Sergeant Ivanov looked at her for a long moment. "You're a better person than most, sister." "No," she said, standing to leave. "I'm just a person who tries to follow what I was taught." At Kazan Medical Center, Dr. Elena Volkova was in surgery with Rashid. The head trauma was worse than anyone thought. His skull was fractured in 3 places. There was bleeding in his brain. His chances of survival were less than 20%. Even if he lived, the brain damage would likely be severe. Dr. Volkova had been a surgeon for 18 years. She'd seen hundreds of head injuries. This was one of the worst. As she worked to stop the bleeding and relieve pressure on Rashid's brain, she wondered what made a young man attack a nun in public. What kind of hate drove someone to that? The surgery took 6 hours. When it was done, Dr. Volkova was exhausted. She went to the waiting room where Rashid's mother Svetlana sat alone. The woman's face was pale with fear. "Mrs. Mukhomedova, your son is alive. We stopped the bleeding and relieved the pressure. But I need to be honest with you. The damage is extensive. If he wakes up, and that's a big if, he may not be the same person. He may not walk. He may not talk. He may not remember you." Svetlana started crying. "This is my fault, doctor. I saw him changing. I saw the anger growing in him. I should have done something." Dr. Volkova sat down next to her. "This isn't your fault. Your son made his own choices." "But where did those choices come from?" Svetlana asked. "He was such a good boy. He loved everyone. Then that mosque, that imam filled his head with poison. Now my son might die, or worse, live as a vegetable because of hate he was taught." The next 5 days were the longest of Svetlana's life. She sat by Rashid's bed talking to him, even though he couldn't hear. She told him about when he was little, about his first day of school, about the time he scored the winning goal in a football match, and how proud his father was before he died. She prayed in Russian and in Tatar, asking God for mercy. Sister Maria came to the hospital on the 3rd day. She didn't go to Rashid's room. She went to the chapel. She knelt in front of the small altar and prayed for the man who attacked her. She prayed for his healing. She prayed for his soul. She prayed that whatever happened next would bring something good from this tragedy. A nurse named Olga saw her there. Olga was Orthodox like Sister Maria. She sat down in the pew behind her. "Sister, I heard what happened to you in the square. Everyone in Kazan has heard. Are you all right?" Sister Maria turned around. "I'm fine, Olga. But the man who attacked me is not." "How is he?" Olga shook her head. "Not good, sister. The doctors don't think he'll wake up. And if he does, they say he'll be severely disabled. It's very sad. His mother is here every day." "Is she alone?" "Yes, sister. She told me her son cut off contact with all his old friends when he joined that radical mosque. She has no one." Sister Maria stood up. "Take me to her." Olga looked surprised. "Sister, are you sure? This man tried to hurt you. That's exactly why I need to see his mother." Svetlana was sitting in the waiting room, drinking bad coffee from a paper cup, when Sister Maria walked in. She looked up, and her face went white. She stood up quickly, knocking over her coffee. "I'm so sorry," Svetlana said with her voice shaking. "I'm so sorry for what my son did to you. I don't know what happened to him. He wasn't always like this. Please believe me." Sister Maria walked over and took Svetlana's hands in hers. "I know he wasn't, and I forgive him. I came here to tell you that, and to sit with you if you'll let me." Svetlana broke down, crying. Sister Maria held her while she sobbed. Two women from different faiths united by tragedy and mercy. From that day forward, Sister Maria came to the hospital every afternoon. She sat with Svetlana. They talked about their lives. Svetlana told her about Rashid before the anger, about his kindness and his humor, about how he used to help elderly neighbors with their groceries, about how he cried at sad movies. Sister Maria told Svetlana about her own journey to faith, about growing up in Soviet times when religion was dangerous, about losing her parents young, about finding the convent and a new family in the sisters there, about 23 years of serving the sick and lonely. The two women became friends, an impossible friendship born from the worst moment of both their lives. On the 5th day, Rashid opened his eyes. Everything that happened next is already told. His conversation with his mother, his vision of the Virgin Mary, Dr. Volkova's shock at his recovery, his request to see Sister Maria, but what happened after that meeting would shake Kazan to its core. Rashid Muhammadov opened his eyes on the fifth day. It was early morning just before the sun came up, that quiet time when hospitals are most still. The only person in the room was his mother, Svetlana. She had fallen asleep in the chair by his bed, with her head on the mattress next to his hand. When his fingers moved, she felt it. She woke up confused for a second, then saw his eyes open and looking at her. "Rashid." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Can you hear me?" He turned his head slowly toward her voice. His mouth tried to make words, but nothing came out at first. She grabbed the water cup from the table and held the straw to his lips. He drank a little, then tried again. "Mama." The word was rough and quiet, but it was there. Svetlana started crying. She pressed the nurse button over and over until Dr. Volkova and two nurses ran into the room. For the next hour, they did test after test. Dr. Volkova's shock showed on her face. Rashid could move his arms and legs. His speech was slow and hard at first, but it worked. His brain responses were right. This should not be possible. Not with the kind of brain damage he had. "Rashid," Dr. Volkova said carefully, "do you remember what happened to you?" He closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were full of tears. "Yes," he said, "I remember everything. Can you tell us?" But Rashid shook his head, looking at all the people in the room. "Please," he said to his mother, "I need to talk to you alone first." When everyone left and the door closed, Rashid began to speak. His voice was weak, but his words were clear. "Mama, I saw her. Saw who, my son? The woman from the icon, the Virgin Mary." He stopped struggling with emotion. "When I raised my foot to destroy the icon, when I was full of anger, I saw her. Not in my mind, Mama. I saw her with my eyes, standing between me and the nun. She wore blue exactly like the icon, and her face was so sad. Not angry, just sad." Svetlana held her son's hand tight. She didn't speak with words. Rashid went on. "But I heard her in my heart. She asked me one question. Why do you hate what you don't understand? And Mama, in that second, I saw everything. I saw all the poison put in my mind at that mosque, all the lies about Christians being enemies, all the hate I was taught to feel. I saw what I was about to do, destroy something holy, hurt an old woman who did nothing wrong. I saw how ugly my soul was." He cried now, with tears running down his face. Then she touched my forehead with her hand, and it was like fire and ice together. And everything went dark. What would happen when Rashid told his story to the whole city? 3 days later, Sister Maria came to the hospital. She came because Rashid asked for her through his mother. She was nervous, not knowing what to expect or if it was safe. But Mother Superior Anna told her to go. "If God worked a miracle here," Mother Superior Anna said, "then you must see it." When Sister Maria walked into Rashid's room, he was sitting up in bed. He saw her and started to cry right away. "Forgive me," he said in Russian, with his voice breaking. "Please, please, forgive me for what I tried to do." Sister Maria walked to the bed slowly. She looked at this young man with bandages on his head and tears on his face. She didn't see the attacker from the square anymore. She saw a soul in pain. "I forgive you," she said simply. "You don't understand," Rashid said. "I need to tell you what happened, what I saw." So he told her everything. The vision of the Virgin Mary, the question she asked, seeing the poison in his own mind, his time in the coma. Sister Maria listened without stopping him, her hands folded in her lap, her face calm. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "The Blessed Mother came to you, a Muslim man, to teach you about faith?" "Yes." "Why do you think she came to you and not to me? I've served her for 23 years and I've never seen her with my eyes." Rashid looked down at his hands. "I think because I was the one who needed to see. I was the one who was lost. You already know what she wanted to teach me." Sister Maria felt tears in her eyes. "The icon," she said. "I brought it. Do you want to see it?" She took the icon of Our Lady of Kazan from her bag and held it up. Rashid looked at it, and more tears came. "It's her," he whispered. "That's exactly how she looked when she came to me." News of what Rashid said spread through Kazan faster than fire. An old imam named Khalil Safarov, who taught for 40 years, came to visit Rashid. They talked for 2 hours. When it was over, Imam Safarov made a choice that shocked everyone. He planned a prayer meeting in Tokai Square, Muslims and Christians together, not to worship the same way, but to pray side by side, for peace, for understanding, for an end to hate. On March 3rd, more than 500 people came to the square. Muslims stood on one side, Christians on the other. In the middle where Rashid fell, someone put a wooden cross and a prayer rug together. Imam Safarov and Father Dmitri, the senior priest, spoke. Then they did something no one expected. They shook hands and hugged like brothers. The Muslims faced Mecca and prayed. The Christians faced the icon held by Sister Maria and prayed. Different words, different ways, but the same heart, healing. But the story was far from over. The next day, Rashid was arrested in his hospital bed. 2 police officers came with handcuffs. Sergeant Ivanov was one of them. He looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Mukhomedov, you're under arrest for assault, destruction of religious property, and committing a hate crime. You have the right to remain silent." Rashid didn't fight. He held out his wrists for the handcuffs. "I understand," he said. "I deserve whatever punishment comes." The trial took place 6 weeks later. Rashid was strong enough to walk into the courtroom, though he still had headaches and dizzy spells. Dr. Volkova testified that his recovery was medically unexplainable. She used words like unprecedented and miraculous in her testimony. The prosecutor was a stern woman named Irina Kuznetsova. She showed the video that witnesses took on their phones. The court watched Rashid attack Sister Maria. They watched him throw the icon. They watched his boot raised to destroy it. They watched him fall. This man, Prosecutor Kuznetsova said, pointing at Rashid, committed a violent hate crime in public. He attacked an elderly woman. He tried to destroy a religious artifact that means everything to the Orthodox community. The law is clear. He should go to prison for 5 years minimum. Then it was time for the defense. Rashid's lawyer was a young man named Pavel Orlov, who worked for low fees because he believed in second chances. But Pavel didn't call character witnesses or argue for mercy. Instead, he called Rashid to the stand. Rashid walked slowly to the witness box. He looked at the judge. The judge was an older woman named Judge Olga Belova, who had a reputation for being tough but fair. "Mr. Mukhomedov," Pavel said, "do you deny what you did in Tokai Square?" "No," Rashid said clearly. "I did everything the prosecutor said. I attacked Sister Maria. I tried to destroy the icon. I deserve to be punished." "Then why are we here?" Pavel asked. "Why not just plead guilty?" "Because I need to tell the court what happened, what I saw, and what it changed in me." So Rashid told his story to the courtroom. He told them about the radical mosque, about the hate he was taught, about seeing Sister Maria in the square, about raising his boot to destroy the icon, and then about the vision. The courtroom was completely silent. Even Prosecutor Kuznetsova stopped taking notes and just listened. When Rashid finished, Judge Belova leaned forward. "Mr. Mukhomedov, do you expect this court to believe you saw a vision?" "No, Your Honor," Rashid said. "I don't expect anyone to believe me. I'm just telling you what happened, what I saw, what changed me. After that vision, after I woke up, I'm not the same person. The hate is gone. I see how wrong I was, how sick my mind became." Judge Belova looked at Sister Maria, who was sitting in the front row. "Sister Maria, will you approach?" Sister Maria walked to the front of the court. "Did this man hurt you?" Judge Belova asked. "Yes, Your Honor. But I forgave him. The first day I forgave him. Even before he claimed to see this vision. Yes, Your Honor." That's what my faith teaches. To forgive. Even enemies. Especially enemies. And the icon? The one he tried to destroy? Sister Maria reached into her bag and pulled it out. She held it up for the court to see. Not one scratch, Your Honor. It fell on frozen ground from 6 feet high. It should be destroyed. But it's perfect. Judge Belova studied the icon for a long moment. Then she looked at Rashid. Mr. Mukhamadoff, I'm going to be very clear with you. I don't care if you saw a vision or not. What matters to this court is what you did and what you will do going forward. The law requires punishment for what you did, but the law also allows for mercy when someone shows genuine change. She paused, thinking. Then she made her ruling. Rashid Mukhamadoff, I find you guilty of assault and hate crimes. I sentence you to 3 years in prison. However, I'm suspending 2 years of that sentence. You will serve 1 year, followed by 4 years of probation. During probation, you will complete 500 hours of community service working with interfaith organizations. You will attend counseling for radicalization. You will give public talks about your experience to help others avoid the path you took. If you violate any part of this probation, you will serve the full 3 years. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Rashid said. Thank you, Your Honor. But Judge Belova wasn't finished. One more thing, Mr. Mukhamadoff. Sister Maria has agreed to be your probation sponsor. You will meet with her once a month. She will report to the court on your progress. You tried to destroy something sacred to her. Now she will help you rebuild something sacred in yourself. That is real justice. Rashid served his year in prison. It was hard. Other inmates heard his story. Some called him a traitor to Islam. Others called him crazy. A few said he got off too easy. But Rashid kept his head down. He read books. He prayed in his own way, asking God for wisdom. He wrote letters to his mother and to Sister Maria. Sister Maria visited him every month. They talked through glass on prison phones. She told him about her work with the sick. He told her about what he was learning about himself, about fear, about hate, about how easy it is to be poisoned by lies when you're looking for somewhere to belong. In one visit 6 months into his sentence, Rashid said something that stuck with Sister Maria. You know what I learned, sister? Hate isn't really about the other person. It's about yourself. I hated Christians because I hated myself. I felt lost and powerless. The mosque gave me someone to blame, something to fight. It made me feel strong, but it was fake strength built on tearing others down. Sister Maria nodded. And now? Now I see that real strength comes from building up, from understanding, from loving even when it's hard. That's what you showed me when you forgave me. That's what I saw in the Virgin Mary's face. Not anger, but sadness. She was sad for me, for what I was doing to myself. When Rashid got out of prison in February 2024, he moved back to his mother's apartment. Svetlana cried when he came home. They hugged for a long time. Rashid was thinner and quieter than before, but his eyes were different. The coldness was gone. The anger was gone. In their place was something like peace. His community service started the next week. He worked with an interfaith center called The Bridge. The center brought together Muslims, Christians, Jews, and people of other faiths for dialogue and service projects. At first, people were suspicious of Rashid. They knew his story. They worried he was faking his change. But over months, they saw it was real. Rashid showed up early and stayed late. He helped organize meals for homeless people where Muslim and Christian volunteers worked side by side. He gave talks at schools about radicalization, warning young people about the trap he fell into. He met with imams and priests, helping them understand how to spot young people being pulled toward extremism. One of his most powerful talks was at a high school in Kazan. He stood in front of 300 students and told them everything: the shame of his actions, the vision he saw, his year in prison, the slow work of changing his heart and mind. At the end, a teenage boy raised his hand. He looked angry. The boy stood up and said, How do we know you're not lying? How do we know this vision wasn't just your brain playing tricks because you hit your head? Rashid nodded. That's a fair question. And honestly, I can't prove it to you. Maybe it was my brain. Maybe I was hallucinating. But here's what I know for sure. Real or not, that vision changed me. Before that moment, I was full of hate and heading toward worse violence. After that moment, I saw my hate for what it was: poison, a lie, a dead end. So even if the vision wasn't real in the way we usually think of real, the change it caused in me is absolutely real. Judge for yourself. Do I seem like the same man who attacked a nun in public? The students were quiet. Then another hand went up. A girl this time. She asked, "Do you still hate Christians?" "No," Rashid said. "I don't hate anyone anymore. I'm still Muslim. That hasn't changed. But now I understand that faith should bring you closer to people, not push you away from them. God or Allah, we're all talking about the same source. Different languages, different traditions, but the same call to love and mercy and justice." Sister Maria continued her Tuesday and Friday walks through Kazan. She still carried the icon of Our Lady of Kazan in its simple wooden case. She still visited the sick who couldn't come to church, but now she had a new stop on her route. Once a month, she met Rashid at a small cafe near Tukai Square. They would sit together for an hour. Sometimes they talked about faith. Sometimes they talked about life. Sometimes they just sat in comfortable silence drinking tea. People in the cafe knew who they were. Everyone in Kazan knew the story. Some people still thought Sister Maria was foolish for forgiving him. Others thought she was a saint. Sister Maria didn't care what people thought. She knew what God asked of her: forgiveness, mercy, love, even for enemies, especially for enemies. 2 years after the attack, in February 2225, something remarkable happened. Rashid and Sister Maria were invited to speak at a conference in Moscow about interfaith dialogue. They stood together on stage and told their story. The audience was full of religious leaders from across Russia: Muslims, Christians, Jews, Buddhists. When they finished speaking, the room erupted in applause. People stood. Many were crying. An old Orthodox bishop came up to Sister Maria after and took her hands. "Sister, you have shown us what Christianity really means. Not just belief, but action. Not just words, but deeds. You are a living icon." Sister Maria felt embarrassed. "I'm just a nun doing what I was taught." "But you did what most of us would find impossible." The bishop said, "You loved your enemy when he was still your enemy. That is the hardest teaching of Christ. And you made it real." Rashid stood nearby talking to a group of young Muslims. They were asking him questions about his journey, about how he knew the difference between true faith and radicalization, about how to resist hate. One young man said, "But brother, don't you ever get angry? Don't you see injustice in the world and want to fight?" "Of course," Rashid said. "I get angry. I see injustice. But anger isn't the same as hate. Anger can drive you to fix problems, to protect the weak, to stand up for justice. Hate just destroys. It destroys others, and it destroys you from the inside." I had to learn the difference. In Tukai Square, where everything happened, the city put up a small memorial. Not to glorify the attack, but to remember the lesson. It was a simple stone marker with words in Russian, Tatar, and English. "Here hate fell and mercy rose. May we always choose mercy." People would stop and read it. Some left flowers. Others just stood for a moment, thinking. The square that saw violence became a place of reflection. Sister Maria walked past it one morning on her rounds. She paused to read the words like she did every time. Then she continued on, carrying her icon to Mrs. Antonova, who was dying of cancer, and wanted to see the Virgin Mary's face one more time before the end. As she walked, Sister Maria thought about everything that happened: the attack, the fear, the forgiveness, the miracle, whether it was divine intervention or just impossible medical luck, Rashid's transformation, their unlikely friendship, the ripples of change spreading through Kazan and beyond. She thought about what Mother Superior Anna said to her: the day after the attack. God writes straight with crooked lines, sister. This tragedy will birth something beautiful, you'll see. Mother Superior Anna was right. From the worst moment came unexpected grace. From violence came healing. From hate came understanding. Not just for Rashid, but for hundreds of people who heard the story and examined their own hearts. That's the thing about miracles Sister Maria realized. The biggest miracle wasn't that the icon survived undamaged. It wasn't even Rashid's medical recovery. The biggest miracle was what happened after. How one moment of violence became a movement of peace. How one act of forgiveness multiplied into a community transformed. 3 years after the attack, Rashid completed his probation. Judge Belova called him back to court for his final hearing. She reviewed his record. 500 hours of community service completed. 73 public talks given to schools, religious groups, and community centers. Perfect attendance at counseling. Glowing reports from Sister Maria. Mr. Muhammadov, Judge Belova said, "When I sentenced you 3 years ago, I wasn't sure you would make it. I wasn't sure your change was real. I'm happy to say I was wrong to doubt you. You've done everything asked of you and more. Your probation is complete. You're a free man." Rashid stood. "Thank you, Your Honor. But I need to tell you something. My work isn't done. I don't need the court to order me anymore. I'm going to keep giving talks, keep working at the bridge, keep meeting with Sister Maria. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Because this is who I am now." Judge Belova smiled. "That, Mr. Muhammadov, is the best thing I've heard in this courtroom in 20 years. Case closed." Outside the courthouse, Rashid's mother Svetlana was waiting. Sister Maria was there too. She had taken the morning off from her rounds to be present for Rashid's final hearing. When Rashid came out, they both hugged him. "I'm proud of you, son," Svetlana said, crying happy tears. "Your father would be proud too." Rashid looked at Sister Maria. "I wouldn't be here without you, sister. You saved me twice. Once when you put your coat over me on the ice, and again when you chose forgiveness over revenge." Sister Maria shook her head. "I didn't save you, Rashid. God saved you. I was just the instrument, and you saved yourself by choosing to change. That was the hardest part. You did that." They walked together toward Tukai Square. It was February again, still cold, still frozen. But today felt different. The winter sun was bright. The square was peaceful. They stopped at the memorial stone. All three of them read the words together. "Here hate fell and mercy rose." "You know," Rashid said, "sometimes I still think about that moment. My boot raised above the icon, the rage in my heart, and then her face. The Virgin Mary looking at me with such sadness. I wonder why she came to me. Why she showed mercy to someone who deserved none." Sister Maria was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Maybe that's the whole point. Mercy isn't for people who deserve it. That's called justice. Mercy is for people who don't deserve it. That's what makes it mercy. That's what makes it miraculous." The three of them stood together in the square, where everything changed. A Muslim man, a Russian Orthodox nun, a mother who nearly lost her son. 3 people from different worlds bound together by tragedy that became grace. Today, the icon of Our Lady of Kazan still sits in the convent of the Holy Protection. Sister Maria still carries it every Tuesday and Friday to visit the sick. The icon is undamaged, no scratches, no cracks, perfect after falling on frozen ground and almost being destroyed. But Sister Maria knows the real miracle wasn't saving the icon. The real miracle was saving a soul, Rashid's soul. And in saving his soul, Sister Maria found her faith deepened in ways she never expected. She learned that forgiveness isn't weakness, it's the strongest force in the world. Rashid still lives in Kazan. He works full-time now at the Bridge Interfaith Center. He's the director of their youth program, helping teenagers navigate questions of faith and identity. He gives 2 or 3 talks every week at schools and community groups, People come from other cities to hear him speak. He still meets Sister Maria once a month at their cafe near Tukay Square. They're family now, not by blood, but by something stronger, by shared suffering and shared grace. And sometimes, on cold February mornings, people still come to Tukay Square. They stand at the memorial stone. They read the words. They think about hate and mercy. They think about what they would do if they were in Sister Maria's place. Would they forgive? Would they choose mercy? Most people don't know. It's hard to know until you're tested. But the stone stands there as a reminder, as a challenge, as an invitation to choose mercy when the moment comes. Because moments come for all of us. Moments when we can choose hate or love, revenge or forgiveness, division or healing. And in those moments we write our own miracles, not with divine intervention necessarily, but with human choice. The choice to see enemies as people, to offer grace instead of judgment, to let mercy rise where hate fell. That's the lesson of Tukay Square. That's the legacy of one frozen morning when everything changed. A Muslim man and a Christian nun teaching the world that faith without love is empty, that the divine shows up in the most unexpected places, that miracles happen when we choose them. Sister Maria walks past that stone every week. She always pauses. She always prays. Not just for Rashid, though she prays for him too. She prays for everyone who passes by, for all the souls struggling with hate or fear or anger or hurt. She prays that they'll find what Rashid found, a moment of grace, a vision of love, a second chance. The icon is safe. The man is healed. The city is changed. And in the heart of one old nun, walking her faithful path through Kazan is the quiet certainty that this story will echo long after she's gone. Because truth like this doesn't fade. Grace like this doesn't expire. Love like this doesn't end. It just keeps spreading. One heart at a time, one choice at a time, one mercy at a time. Until the whole world is covered in the same question the Virgin Mary asked Rashid that frozen morning. Why do you hate what you don't understand? It's the question that changes everything when we're brave enough to answer it honestly. And in Kazan, on certain clear mornings, when the sun shines on snow and the square is peaceful, you can almost see her there. The woman in blue, the Blessed Mother, still asking, still waiting, still offering the same mercy she showed a lost young man who raised his boot to destroy her image, the mercy that saves us all, if only we'll accept it.